Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Hare Krishna. Here we are. Welcome to our channel, Bhagavad-gita. Here it is. We are reading Bhagavad-gita as it is. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and my name is Labangala Tika. And now I just read the previous verse, but of course it posts several days in between them. So we are in the third chapter, Karma Yoga, and I just wanted also to remind you of the second chapter. If you have not been following from the beginning, the second chapter we establish the nature of the soul. Because if we do that, if we know who we are, then based on that knowledge, we will place our priorities in life. So if we know we're spirit soul, we will have spiritual priorities. And Arjuna is asking, yes, I understand these things you're saying, Krishna. I understand what is right and what is wrong and what is good for me. But sometimes it is as we are forced to act against our own best interest. Why is that? And then Krishna tells us about lust, which is maybe not a very concept we consider on a daily basis. It seems to be just in a very small area in our lives that is based on lust. But actually lust doesn't just mean sexual desires. It means in general, when the spiritual desires become covered by our false ego, our natural drive for loving God becomes turned into something totally different. And one word for it is lust, kama, the desire to enjoy through our senses. Although we are not this body, although we are actually not enjoyers, our happiness, that is a common misconception. Happiness and enjoyment, they are not connected at all, actually. You see, it's an easy mistake to make, but it's good to learn that that's not how reality works. So when we're covered by this body, when our love has become converted into lust, then we are not acting in our own best self-interest. That's what Krishna was saying. That which makes us act against our own best interest, in general, we can call that lust. And here we get to know a little more about it. I will read text 41. Tasmat tvam indriyani ado niyamya bharatarshava papmanang pradyahi hyenang jnana vijnana nashanam. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. So these are not modern concepts. These are very foreign concepts to many of us who are coming, especially from the Western world, brought up with the idea, what is it that they say, that it's a human right. I always forget it when I'm on camera. It's part of the American Declaration of Independence. We hold this truth to be self-evident. Anyway, striving for happiness, that is what it means, even if I don't get the words right. So we strive for happiness, but that is natural. That is the nature of the soul. But this happiness is not to be found in enjoying that which we reach through our material senses. And therefore, culture, to some degree or other, is about regulating our activities, our sense enjoyment. And still it sounds foreign, doesn't it? It sounds old-fashioned, it sounds religious, and why can't we just do what we want? We can't do just what we want, because then somebody gets hurt. If we go out and drive in the traffic, we can't just drive as we want. We follow, or at least we approximately follow the rules for how fast we can drive and how to turn and how to follow the signs. And we drive on the same side of the road, because otherwise there will be so much unnecessary danger. We are not on the road to manifest our individuality. We are on the road to get somewhere. And the same thing in the human form of life, it's not all about manifesting our individuality at any price. Actually, as human beings, the general goal is to be happy. And if we have knowledge about the spirit soul, we stand a better chance to actually become happy, because we will understand a little bit more about the cause and effect. I will read some more. Purport. The Lord advised Arjuna to regulate the senses from the very beginning, so that he could curb the greatest sinful enemy, lust, which destroys the urge for self-realization and specific knowledge of the self. So that is a real problem. I mean, if we are the spirit soul and we are in this body, in the human form of life, we have this great opportunity for this realization that will free us from our continuous birth and death in this world. Birth and death which is connected with some happiness, but also with a lot of suffering. But this lust destroys that the urge for self-realization. It's very interesting. It's a very good sentence. I'm very happy I read it. Jnana refers to knowledge of self as distinguished from non-self, or in other words, knowledge that the spirit soul is not a body. Vijnana refers to specific knowledge of the spirit soul's constitutional position and his relationship to the Supreme Soul. It is explained thus in the Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.31. Jnanang paramaguhyang me yad vijnana samanvitam sarahasyam sarahasyang tadangang cha grihana gaditang maya. The knowledge of the self and Supreme Self is very confidential and mysterious, but such knowledge and specific realization can be understood if explained with their various aspects by the Lord himself. The living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord, and therefore they are simply meant to serve the Lord. This consciousness is called Krishna Consciousness. So from the very beginning of life one has to learn this Krishna Consciousness, and thereby one may become fully Krishna conscious and act accordingly. Lust is only the perverted reflection of the love of God, which is natural for every living entity. But if one is educated in Krishna consciousness from the very beginning, that natural love of God cannot deteriorate into lust. So that's what Krishna is saying from the very beginning. And that's why we want culture. And that's why we want to have this understanding and bring it into our lives. But it's very difficult, because the nature of this world is that we are drawn to enjoy separate from Krishna. Then we are in a certain body. That body conditions our the way we see life, the way we see the world, the way we see ourselves. It makes us think, I am this. These are the things I want to enjoy, according to my specific set of senses, according to my culture, and so on. And then, when we have this Vedic understanding, actually it's more than a Vedic understanding, we have the understanding of ourselves as souls in connection with Krishna, then it makes perfect sense to set up some regulations in life. We speak about the regulative principles of freedom, which sounds like a contradiction, but what it does is we regulate our activities in this realm of the senses and in our lives in such a way that there is more room for the soul to blossom. There is more room for our self-realization, and there is a less hindrance by this false identification with this physical body, and even with the mental capacities we have. And if we can do that in life from an early age, then when we are grown up, we will not have so much extra baggage to deal with in our spiritual life. But it's very easy that this becomes that it stagnates, that it just becomes moral principles or our culture or something our grandmother used to do. And then it's difficult to do it with understanding and enthusiasm and with some presence. Then it just becomes some rules. And as we all know, the general idea nowadays is that rules are meant to be broken. But if we understand, if we are able to put our knowledge in there, if we are able to put our heart in it, and at the same time, if we are able to create that kind of a culture that doesn't unnecessarily burden us with all this baggage of the life of sense enjoyment and even sinful life. And then you say sinful and it feels judgmental and it feels old-fashioned, and why is this religion coming here and telling me what to do? That's why we have to know why we do it. So we read the second chapter of Bhagavad-gita. We should always go back to the second chapter of the Bhagavad-gita and understand the nature of the soul, how we are that soul, and what that means in our life. And then the rest of these instructions, they will become very helpful. They will be very encouraging. They will be something we want to apply. And this, from the very beginning in life, is always difficult because, of course, you can read the second chapter of Bhagavad-gita to children, but they may not be able to relate to it. So to find that balance in life, to create that kind of culture and that kind of family where we are actually prioritizing our spiritual life, where we're actually putting Krishna consciousness into practice without becoming, it's just something our grandmother used to do, and without becoming fanatic and just driving the rules and the principles without bringing in the understanding of what they are for. It's a bit of a challenge, but it's a worthy challenge, because after all, we're human beings, so that's what we do. When love of God deteriorates into lust, it is very difficult to return to the normal condition. Nonetheless, Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of God by following the regulative principles of devotional service. Isn't that nice to hear? So we're all late beginners. Wherever we start, we know that there were hundreds and thousands of lifetimes where we didn't start, but now we are here, and now we can practice Krishna consciousness with some conviction and some enthusiasm, and also with some knowledge. So from any stage of life, or from the time of understanding its urgency, one can begin regulating the senses in Krishna consciousness, devotional service to the Lord, and turn the lust into love of Godhead, the highest perfectional states of the human life. So, that's not just someone telling you what to do because they are the priest. That is something of great value. And the regulative principles of devotional service, it's not just regulations and rules that tells us what we can't do, but it's actually a question of something we can do with enthusiasm. We can mold our lives in such a way that we're in contact with Krishna, that we're in contact with the spiritual core of our own beings. And this is not, this is a very high level, and if we're not on a very high level, then we can have practical, we can have some ideas that we can apply practically in our lives. So we are not just sitting back and waiting for that revelation where it will all be clear to us. Now we can start in the small things. We all eat, so we can learn here from Krishna what kind of things does he like, and then we cook them and we bring them before Krishna. And then when we take that prasadam and Krishna is done with it, we can see that we will still eat, but we will be satisfied on a spiritual level in it. And so many activities can be done like that. And that is that's the positive side of the rules and regulation, what we can actually do. But we also need to have a little bit of an understanding of the negative side. What are the obstacles? What are the problems? So this is really a problem, something that destroys the urge for self-realization. So that is really a problem. That is what puts what do you say? It puts a stop to the whole purpose of the human life when we lose our drive for self-realization. So yeah, now we have a little more knowledge than we had just a moment before, and I hope you will follow us further, installment after installment, because Krishna has a lot more to say, and I'm very happy to be here reading about it. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is, of course, the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.